Previously on the Mega Factory series. However, I'm making some exceptions with items that are very easily produced at the source and that at least don't require more storage space than the materials. This includes ingots, apart from aluminium, copper sheets, copper powder, and that's where we start today. First I'm gonna tackle the copper production, copper sheets and copper powder. The plan is to produce 2500 copper sheets per minute and 2050 copper powder per minute. In addition, I will need about 520 copper ingot per minute in the Mega Factory for items that I will produce there. Now, if you don't know exactly how these materials are produced, especially the copper powder, you might be thinking it doesn't sound so bad. But the problem is that each copper powder takes 6 copper ingots and there's no cheaper alternate recipe. If I were to use only standard recipes, these production numbers would mean that I would need 17,864 copper ore per minute, which is over half of all the copper on the map. And for some reason it doesn't really sound fun to plan the logistics for that, so yeah, I'm gonna use the alternate recipes instead. Pure copper ingot is a very efficient way of producing copper ingots. Instead of 1:1 as with the standard recipe, you get 2.5:1. With the added cost of needing water as well as refineries and thus a lot more power. And steamed copper sheet produces twice as many copper sheets as the standard recipe, but also requires water and refineries. With these recipes the total copper ore cost is down to 6,138, which I can get from a significantly smaller area. This comes with a trade-off though. The total number of refineries needed for this setup is 522. In addition, 60 water extractors are needed. These buildings combined will consume 16.8 gigawatts of power, which is over half of what my nuclear power plant with 10 reactors produces. So, look forward to an episode in the near future where I will expand my power production by a lot. Since the setup needs a lot of water, I want to build it on the water for easy access. I have chosen the area east of the swamp mainly because there are many pure copper nodes nearby. Now, I could just build this as a plain flat factory on the water with hundreds of refineries. But where's the fun in that? Instead, I got an idea that I wanted to try since I realized you can rotate foundations semi-freely. I'll create a building inspired by the turning torso in Malmö, Sweden. The idea is a skyscraper with floors that are rotating. This will be the building for the copper powder. The plan is to have 10 proper floors in the building. Each floor has 32 refineries that produce 1200 copper ingot per minute that are then sent to 4 constructors that produce 200 copper powder per minute. As I need to produce 2050 copper powder, I'm also adding a penthouse to the skyscraper. An 11th floor with just 8 refineries and a constructor producing the remaining 50. In the basement I will have the water extractors and I will also organize the copper ores and the water, which is not trivial as the volumes are much higher than a single Mark V belt or Mark II pipe can handle. There are a couple of key difficulties in building a tall factory like this, something I noticed while building it. First of all, how to get the items up there. I decided that I will use a fixed elevator shaft in the middle of the building that is not rotated. This allows for easy use of the conveyor and pipe floor holes. Secondly, lifting fluids is not always easy in the game, especially through the floor holes which tend to bug sometimes. And thirdly, getting that actual rotation done. It was particularly hard as the floors are 18 by 18 foundations, so the center point is not a single foundation, but rather the point between 4 foundations. In order to rotate the floors properly, I needed to use some walkways to place a foundation halfway between the proper placement, and this way I could get it centered at the center of the 18 by 18 foundation. After that I can rotate it one step, but then I need to reverse the walkway trick to actually get back to building the foundations at their correct spots. After a few floors, I was regretting my decision to go with 18 by 18 foundations instead of picking an odd number of foundations as the dimensions. Alright, let's take a tour on the copper powder tower then. But before we get there, let's look at the ingredients coming in the factory. This hub is collecting resources from 6 pure copper nodes and 1 normal copper node. The pure node is producing 720 items per minute and normal 600 per minute, so it's exactly 4,920 that I need per minute for this whole building, so that is perfect. So they are moved down here in the factory, in this hub. Oh, and by the way, up here I actually have this sort of a sculpture. This is a scale model that I made on 50% of the total size, just to test this rotating floors before I started doing the proper building. But when I started dismantling it, I thought it looks kind of nice, so I decided to keep it as a sort of modernistic sculpture outside the building. I think it looks cool. But yeah, so this is moving all of the materials in here. Let's see how it looks like in here. So the problem here is that we have 6 belts that have copper at 720 per minute. And then we have 1 belt that has copper at 600 per minute. And we need to distribute that to 10 belts that have 480 per minute and 1 that has 120. And that is what these load balancers here do. So they practically gather stuff from different belts and then send the residual to another belt, and it has been calculated that this does exactly what is needed for that to happen. And then we also on this floor have a bunch of water extractors collecting the water needed for this setup. Actually 28 of them. And their water is scattered on the other side of this setup here. We have a similar thing here. We need to have 320 water per minute at each floor, and then the last floor will need less. So this is making sure that the water we gather from these extractors practically first gather them to pipes that have 480, and then we distribute that to pipes worth 320 with this setup in here. And once we move into the elevator shaft, you can see a lot of pipes going up, a lot of belts going up. You can also see some belts coming down. They are transporting the end products of this factory. They are now being synced at the moment before I send them to the actual mega factory. So yeah, the belts are easy thing. I mean, you just put a floor hole there and they will go to the next floor. The pipes are, or the water is a bit more tricky. You need to have pumps to get it up, especially to these heights. I mean, the normal water lift is only like 10 meters, so you need a lot of pumps. I practically have a pump for each floor of the building for each of the pipes. So yeah, for the aesthetic reasons I needed to well, this consumes some extra power that I wouldn't really need, but I wanted to build this tower anyway. I think it looks cool. And I need to figure out a way to easier or in a more easy way to maneuver in this place. I just have these very tiny holes, at least in the beginning, because these pipes take a lot of space. So I don't have a lot of space to open up for access. So yeah, the same story on the second floor in here. Plenty of pipes pumping the water upstairs. But one of the water pipes and also one of the lifts is now moved in this floor. And let's take a look at how it looks like in here then. So the water is coming out from this wall here, and it is then transported to 8 refineries on each side of the building, so 32 total on this floor. I use a simple manifold here. You can see it even further down the road. It has saturated, all of these inputs, so they are producing at 100% efficiency. And then when these 8 refineries produce their copper ingots, which is exactly 300 per minute, those are moved to one constructor on each side that actually makes those copper powders that are then sent back downstairs. So that's the basic layout of the floor. In the middle there's this elevator shaft. As mentioned, it is not rotated, so you can see that it's even on this first level it's at a bit of an angle, and the angle is going to be higher and higher the further up we go in this building. The floors themselves are rotated, so you can see the previous floor ends in there, the new floor ends in there, and if we look at up there, I mean the next floor is rotating counterclockwise. I'm actually gonna make a hole in the window and just go up the building this way. This is easier way to actually maneuver. So if we start rising up this building, you can start seeing that the view from up here is actually pretty awesome. You can see the whole biome of swamp on one side of the building. And then you can see the dune desert on the other side. And even some areas beyond that. Here you can also see where this copper comes from. 3 pure nodes come from the dune desert. They are transported that way to our building. And then there are some more copper coming beyond the swamp and from the swamp itself. They are also transported to this central hub in here. If we go further up, I mean we are not even at the top yet, you can see that, I mean the view is just getting better. You can see a big part of the world from up here at one glance. However, when we get high enough up in the air, you can start seeing some clouds in here. This is what happens in Satisfactory when you rise around 500 meters from the ground. You start seeing these clouds. And the further you go up, the thicker they will be. So if I were to build this much higher, I mean you couldn't see anything outside at that point. So that's how the world looks like up here. Let's see how the 11th floor looks like. All the other floors look pretty similar or the same as the first one, but this is different. It's 11th floor. First of all, you can see that the central elevator shaft is now rotated quite a lot in relation to this floor, or actually the floor is rotated quite a lot in relation to that. And you can see that up here we have 8 refineries, 4 on both sides. And they are producing materials for just one constructor here, and this is producing the 20 copper powder extra that we need. And that is actually everything for the copper powder tower. But if we move outside the building, you can actually see that there's another factory down there that I have also worked quite a lot on lately. So this is the building for copper sheets, 2500 per minute of those. But that is going to be a topic for another video. This video has already become pretty long, so I will stop here for now. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and as usual, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you feel like doing it. I would really appreciate it. See you soon for the next part in the Mega Factory series, as well as the next tips and tricks video. Feel free to comment below what topic you would like me to cover in that series.